Welcome back to the channel. Today, we've got something really exciting for you. We're going to talk about the top 5 most expensive, ultra-rare, and valuable coins in the United States that can be worth big money. I'm talking about some pennies that you might just find hiding in your spare change, but they're not just any pennies, they're legendary. So, how much could these pennies actually be worth? Well, let's get into it. You might be surprised by some of the historical mistakes that turned these ordinary coins into extraordinary treasures. Stick with me, and let's dive into the fascinating world of rare and valuable Lincoln pennies. First up, we have the 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. Now, this one is pretty fascinating. Normally, U.S. coins have a mint mark, a small letter stamped onto the coin to show where it was produced. You've got the D for Denver, S for San Francisco, and when there's no mint mark, that typically means it was produced in Philadelphia. But here's the interesting part, some 1967 pennies were released without any mint mark, which is an error. Now, why does this matter? Well, these mint markless pennies are incredibly rare. Typically, when coins are struck at the U.S. Mint, they include a mint mark to indicate the facility where they were made. But, for some reason, a few 1967 pennies came out of the mint completely blank in that department. It's not entirely clear why, but experts believe that it was a mistake that happened during the production process, likely due to a die misalignment or a slip-up in the quality control stage. So, how rare are these error coins? It's estimated that only a small handful of 1967 pennies made it out without a mint mark. The reason this is such a big deal is because it's an unintentional mistake, which is exactly what collectors love to find. Coins that were never meant to exist, or weren't supposed to be like that, are often worth far more than their face value. Now, these error coins don't pop up every day. In fact, they are incredibly hard to find. When one does appear on the market, it can fetch up to $6,000 depending on its condition. Of course, the better the condition, the more valuable it is. Coins that have been well preserved, without any signs of wear or damage, are especially prized by collectors, who know just how rare it is to find one of these pennies in great shape. While some people might overlook these pennies in their spare change, coin collectors and numismatists are always on the lookout for errors like this. It's one of the main reasons why rare coins like this hold such high value. As more time passes, these kinds of mistakes become increasingly harder to find, which only adds to the appeal. As a result, the 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark has become a treasure for serious collectors. So, if you've got any pennies from 1967 sitting around, take a closer look. The chances of finding one of these mint markless gems are slim, but if you do, you might be holding on to a valuable piece of history. Imagine finding a coin that, at first glance, seems like just another penny, but actually holds the potential to be worth thousands. Next up, we have the 1964'D Lincoln penny. You might be thinking, okay, it's just another penny, right? But no. This penny has a very special story. The 1964 penny is the last year before the U.S. Mint switched from using 90% silver in its coins to a copper-clad composition. This makes the 1964 coin particularly important to collectors. But what really sets the 1964'D penny apart is the unique overminting error that occurred, making it particularly valuable. Now, let's talk about this overminting error. Essentially, some of the 1964'D pennies were accidentally struck over an already existing coin. This meant that the design from the original coin still showed through on the new penny. It's a rare mistake, and it turns these pennies into something truly special. The Mint had been cranking out a lot of coins in 1964 because it was a year of change for the U.S. Mint, and this is likely why this overminting happened. The new coin was improperly aligned with the previous one during the minting process. To put it simply, an existing coin's design can sometimes show through on the 1964'D penny, creating what's called an overminting error. These error coins are especially interesting because they weren't meant to be that way, and it makes them much more valuable. These types of errors can happen when an old die is used to strike new coins, or when a mistake is made in the coin's production process. Why does this make the 1964'D penny so valuable? Well, first off, these errors are extremely rare. And the fact that this was the last year for 90% silver coins makes the 1964 pennies even more significant to collectors. These coins were made during a transitional period in U.S. minting history, which adds to their appeal. If you've got one of these 1964'D pennies in mint state, meaning it's in great condition with little to no wear, you could be looking at a coin worth up to $4,750 or more. But don't get too excited just yet. The value depends on the condition of the coin. As with any rare coin, a penny that's been well preserved and has minimal wear is far more valuable than one that's been circulated and damaged over the years. Collectors and investors are looking for coins that are close to perfect when it comes to these types of errors. So, if you've got a 1964'D penny in mint state, you might be holding on to something worth quite a bit. Now, the 1964'D Lincoln penny might seem like a regular penny at first, but with its overminting error, this coin is a collector's dream. Not only is it rare, but it's also a part of U.S. minting history, making it highly sought after by numismatists, people who study and collect coins. It's not every day that you come across a mistake that turns a penny into such a valuable piece. So, if you've got a 1964'D Lincoln penny hanging around in your collection or sitting in a jar, it might be worth a lot more than you think. Whether it's the last of its kind made with 90% silver or an overminting error that makes it even more unique, this coin could be worth up to $4,750 or possibly more, depending on its condition. Now, let's jump ahead to 1975. The 1975'D Lincoln Memorial penny is one of the most valuable and sought-after coins out there today, with an estimated value of up to $10,000. You might be asking, what makes this penny so special? Well, the 1975'D penny has a unique feature that makes it incredibly rare. These pennies are famous for having a double die error. To break it down, a double die error occurs when the die used to strike the coin is misaligned, causing the design to be stamped more than once. This creates a double image of the design on the coin. In the case of the 1975'D Lincoln Memorial penny, the Lincoln Memorial itself is double struck, leading to a blurred or doubled appearance on the reverse side of the coin. Now, not all 1975'D pennies have this double die error. In fact, it's extremely rare to find one. The reason for this is that not every coin struck with this die was misaligned enough to cause this error. The misalignment happened when the die wasn't properly aligned with the planchet, the blank piece of metal that gets stamped to create the coin. So, when the coin was struck, it caused the design to appear twice. Why does this error make the 1975'D penny so valuable? Well, the rarity of the coin is the key factor. When you have a coin with such a significant error, especially one that's so hard to find, collectors go crazy for it. The double die error is particularly intriguing because it creates an obvious design flaw that's easy to spot. The doubled Lincoln Memorial and lettering are visible to the naked eye, making it a standout piece in any collection. But here's the catch, finding one of these 1975'D pennies in excellent condition is almost like finding a needle in a haystack. Most of these coins were circulated heavily, and as a result, they've been worn down over the years. Coins that show little to no wear, where the doubling is still clearly visible, are highly prized. If you happen to find one of these error pennies in mint state, you could be looking at a coin worth up to $10,000 or even more. Collectors and investors alike are always on the lookout for rare coins with double die errors, and the 1975'D Lincoln Memorial penny is one of the best-known examples. What makes this coin even more special is that it's from a transitional time in U.S. coinage, when the mint was ramping up production in the mid-1970s. With so many coins being struck, some slipped through the cracks with this rare mistake. So, what do you need to look for to identify a 1975'D penny with this error? The key feature you want to check is the doubling on the reverse side, specifically on the Lincoln Memorial and the words E pluribus unum. If you see that clear doubling effect, you could be holding onto a coin that's worth thousands of dollars. Alright, now we're going back in time to 1960. This was a year when the Lincoln Memorial penny underwent some design changes, and not all of them went smoothly. The 1960'D Lincoln Memorial penny is another coin that's worth big money. What makes this coin so special is that it has a serious minting error, a double die in the obverse design. So, what's the deal with this error? On a typical 1960'D penny, the image of Abraham Lincoln is clear and crisp. But on the error coins, you'll notice something strange, a doubling effect. This doubling occurs primarily on the date and the word liberty. The reason this happens is because the die used to strike the coin wasn't perfectly aligned during the minting process. When the die was used to strike the coin, it left a shadow-like effect, doubling certain elements of the design. This type of error is known as a double die, and it's one of the most sought-after errors by collectors. The doubling you see is most noticeable on the liberty, inscription and the date on the obverse of the coin. When you look at it closely, the 1960 date will have a faint, extra impression giving it a ghost-like effect, while the word liberty will also appear doubled. These subtle yet clear doubling features are a key sign of this error. Now, why is this coin so valuable? The answer lies in how rare these error coins are. Double die errors happen when a die strikes a coin more than once or is misaligned during the minting process. With the 1960'D Lincoln Memorial penny, only a small number of these error coins were made, making them quite rare. The fact that it's from 1960, a time of transition for U.S. minting, also adds to its intrigue. If you happen to find one of these 1960'D pennies in great shape, you could be looking at a coin worth around $4,000 or even more. As always, the condition of the coin plays a huge role in determining its value. Coins that are in mint state or have been preserved in excellent condition fetch higher prices. A penny that's been worn down or heavily circulated won't carry the same value as one that shows clear doubling without much wear. Collectors pay top dollar for coins like the 1960'D double die penny because of its rarity and the noticeable error. A well-preserved coin with visible doubling can bring in a premium price at auctions or from collectors who specialize in error coins. The 1960'D penny is a perfect example of how a small mistake in the minting process can turn an ordinary coin into a valuable treasure. So, the next time you're going through your collection or checking your change, make sure to keep an eye out for this error. If you find one, you might just be holding on to a coin worth thousands of dollars. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, the 1960'D Lincoln Memorial penny is a must-know coin in the world of rare and valuable pennies. Finally, we come to one of the most famous error coins in U.S. history, the 1969'D Lincoln Memorial penny. This coin is known for its extremely rare and highly valuable double die error, where the lettering and design are visibly doubled. And when I say extremely rare, I mean it. The 1969'D penny was struck using a die that had shifted during the minting process, causing a double impression of the word liberty and, in God we trust. This die shift creates a dramatic doubling effect, especially on the letters, which appear as ghost-like shadows next to the original impression. The error is clear, and it's one of the most iconic mistakes in U.S. coinage. So why is this coin so valuable? It all comes down to how rare it is. Of the millions of pennies made in 1969, only a small fraction came out with this doubling error. And considering how large the production was for the 1969'D penny, the odds of finding one with the double die error are incredibly slim. These coins are especially valuable because of how rare the error is, and they're highly sought after by collectors who specialize in error coins. The 1969'D double die penny is often considered one of the standout pieces in the Lincoln Memorial series, which has been a staple of U.S. coinage for years. Now, let's talk value. Depending on the condition, a 1969'D Lincoln Memorial penny with this error can sell for anywhere between $7,500 and $10,000. That's a huge jump from the coin's original value of just 1 cent. Coins in better condition, especially those graded as uncirculated, can command even higher prices at auctions. Even though the 1969'D penny is a double die error, not all of them are in perfect condition. The value increases significantly if the coin is in mint condition with clear doubling on the lettering. Some well-preserved specimens have sold for over $10,000, making this one of the most valuable pennies to look for. So, if you happen to find a 1969'D Lincoln Memorial penny with that double die error, you could be holding a small fortune. Make sure to inspect it carefully for signs of doubling, especially around the Liberty and, in God we trust areas. If you're unsure, it's always a good idea to have it professionally appraised. Conclusion. Well, there you have it, 5 of the most expensive and valuable pennies you might find in your change. Whether it's a mistake from the minting process or a unique design feature, these pennies have become treasures for collectors around the world. So, if you're going through your spare change or going through some old coin jars, keep an eye out. You never know when you might find one of these rare coins that could make you some serious money. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment down below if you've ever found a rare coin. Until next time, happy collecting.